Welcome back to our tutorial series on developing Game Boy games in C using the Game Boy Developer Kit. In the last tutorial I showed you how to do this, how to create a keyboard and actually get your player to be able to choose the letters in the keyboard and type out their name, for example. In this tutorial I'm going to take that example and then move it on to show you how you can save that name in the Game Boy's memory backup so that next time you reload the game you've still got whatever it is you've saved. That could be used for a name like we're showing today, or what level they're on, whatever you need it to be. So let's get stuck into the code. So as I said, today we're going to take the code sample we created last time. I'm not going to go through it, so if you haven't actually watched the last tutorial, please skip back and go and watch it now. I'll put a link below. So last time, if you remember, we were saving out the player name to this player name uint8 array with 18 characters in it. And if you remember, all that really was saving was the tile index they selected. It didn't care whether it was an A or a B, it was just saving 1 or 3. Now the advantage of that meant that when we drew it back, all we did was actually just give it the saved name, and it was already a tile map that you could draw out to the screen. You could actually save whatever you want, but I think this is a nice convenient way of doing it. So what we need to do today is to move this actually into its own file and to change how we're compiling so that the compiler knows this should be saved in the right place in the Game Boy's ROM memory that actually gets battery backed up. So what we're going to do here is create a savestate.c file. I've already created it here for you. Include the gb.h file just so it knows what a uint8 is, and it's exactly the same. We just literally copied and pasted the line over. Then we go back into main. We're going to take this and move it because it needs to be at the top here, and we're going to use a special new keyword called extern, and that tells the code that this is actually in an external location. It's going to have to look elsewhere for it, and where it's going to find it when we change how the compiler compiles it is in our savestate.c. Now we need to change the make file that actually compiles it. So here I've already kind of commented out the two lines we would normally have when we're actually trying to compile. So in all of my previous tutorials this is pretty much what it's looked like. It's taken the main method, compiled it, and then brought that into the Game Boy .gb file. Now what we're going to do today is to do it slightly differently. Save state is going to get its own compile line, and then main is going to get its own compile line, and they're going to be brought together at the end here with a few special variables here that tell it about us actually using that special area of the save state. These kind of three figures here tell it what part of the memory we're using, how a large part of memory we want to use. It's too detailed to go through in this tutorial, so here's a link. That's where I went and learnt it from. I'd go and read that and it will tell you what they are. You could take it as is, but the more you save into memory you might need to tweak some of these figures. We now have those three lines, and when it brings it together effectively that is what tells the Game Boy that the contents of our player name should actually end up in that place in the memory that gets saved. So now if we compile again, there we go, it compiles like normal, and now it is actually already saving that into the right location. But at the moment it's still just going to show the keyboard. Every time you load up it's just going to reset to the keyboard. So we need to change the code so that we have a kind of welcome screen and a keyboard screen. So we're going to start that off by creating a new method. So we're going to move the contents of main into this new method. So I'm going to call this new method ask for name screen. It's a void method like main, doesn't actually return anything, and I'm literally going to take all the code that we've got in main right now and put it into there. Now I can just call that method from our main method, is what I'm going to do. So at the moment we haven't really changed anything there, we've just moved things around, but now we're actually going to do something different. So what we're going to do is we're going to look inside our player name to see whether we think something's actually been saved in it when we turn on the Game Boy again for the first time. And the way we're going to do that is look for the first character. So player name, first character in it is 0. Now we're storing any number between 0 and 40 because that's what our character map has. So we know that if that value is anything different than that, then it can't have a player name saved in it. And what I found when you read from that initially, when it's empty, when there's nothing in there, you get quite a large number. So we're just going to look for any number larger than 40 in hexadecimal. So hexadecimal 40 is 0x28. So if player name 0 has a character in it that's larger than 0.28, then we're going to ask the player for their name. So that means it's actually only going to run that code if there isn't a player name already. So we need it to now do something else if there is a player name. So what we're going to do is create a new method again where we're actually going to play back the player name. We're going to draw it to the screen. So I'm going to create this here. We're going to call it say hello screen. And I've actually already created a map for this. So here it is, we're just going to have welcome back and we're going to write the player name on there. So I've already saved that out as a normal background map into this welcome map here. So if we include welcome map, then we can actually use it inside of our say hello screen. So what we're going to do in here is load the keyboard exactly like we've done in the ask for name screen. Load the keyboard map up so we can actually draw it. We're going to load in that welcome map so it displays that welcome in the background. And then we're going to call a method we already have. So we created a draw player name method that already draws it out to the screen from that player name variable. So we can just reuse that on this screen. We're going to show the background. We're going to hide the sprite because we don't need the cursor anymore. We're just going to turn the display on. And that's everything say hello screen would need to work. So we're almost there now. We've got our say hello screen. So basically if we've asked for their name already, then we can just go straight to say hello screen. If we haven't, then we're going to ask for it. But we need to do a few little things to actually enable the kind of memory controller on the Game Boy so that it can actually save that memory in the right bank. So what we're going to do is call something called enable . So it's going to enable the memory bank controller 1. That's where the actual save state is going to end up. So we're going to put that at the beginning, and at the end we're going to disable it. And basically this is the bit that actually will allow it to save it. It needs to be here. It doesn't need to be at the beginning and end of the methods like I've got here. You could actually go and just turn it on and off where you're actually saving or reading from memory. But for simplicity, I'm just going to leave it over the whole of my main method. Okay, finally we just need to make a small tweak to our ask for name screen. So if you remember in the last tutorial, we did a little hack to move the background to be half a sprite, so 4 pixels offset, just so it's centered it a little bit better. But obviously our welcome screen doesn't have that, so we're going to need to actually put that back again. And also we want our method when it's finished to just return, so we're going to clean that up a little bit. So we're going to have return, so basically it says I've finished, and it will go back to the rest of the code that's executing. I'm not returning any value because don't forget this has a void for its type of method, so it's not returning anything. And then we just need to undo, before we do that return, undo that scroll background. So when you scroll background, we previously did it -4, so we're just going to put it back again. And that will reset the background position. So let's compile that and see what it does. So if we take the file we've just compiled, the main.gb file, and load it in BGB, it will come up with our keyboard because we don't have anything set. But you'll see over here, we've now got a main.sav. So the .sav file is how BGB actually makes saves. So we know that something's already happening. But we're going to find a problem. So if I actually just start setting a name, I get the B, but I also get all this other junk as well. So the reason for that is that because we're only checking here whether the first character is rubbish, it's still loading all those characters in that are in memory but aren't actually initially set. So it will have all kinds of stuff in there, potentially different numbers. And that's what's kind of coming out here. So what we need to do is write a tiny bit of code when we actually ask someone for their name that makes sure it clears out all of those 18 characters so that they're nothing at all. So that they actually just become our space character in our character map. So we're going to go and do that. We're just going to create a new method. Again, another void. This could be called reset character name. And what we're going to do is just going to loop through all the characters that are in that player name and set them basically to 0 in hex. So we're going to create a uint 8 at the top that just lets us do that index. As I've said previously, ideally you want to reuse your variables. Don't create a variable inside everything. And I've got one here, but I copy and paste this into lots of exercises. So we're just going to create that one there, and we're going to be able to use that in our reset character name. So for I equals 0 to I. And again, on the Game Boy and C, you don't really want to use less than. It's not very good at doing that. So what we're actually going to do is just to say not equal to 18. So the moment it's not equal to 18 as its maximum is going to be when it's 19. So it'll stop, just like it normally would, but it's how the Game Boy would like to work with those. So we're going to loop through, and then we're going to do player name at the index I equals 0, basically the first character in our keyboard map. And we're also going to set player has name, which is what we create after we've created the keyboard here to say that it's actually got a name. We're just going to reset that to 0 as well. So that's actually the method. We actually have to then call it. So before we actually ask the character for their name, we're going to reset that. And that'll make sure that's wiped out. So if we compile that. Now if we go back to BGB and I literally just reload that, it's going to go straight into the welcome back screen because it saved those original values into its main.sav. So we have to get rid of that. But what I've also found is that BGB, if I just delete that file now, the moment BGB reloads, it will recreate it. So we actually have to completely shut down BGB, then delete the save file, then reopen, and then we get the keyboard back. So now if we type something out, you'll see it's nice and clean. We've just got what we're typing. And then when we complete the complete, it will go to welcome back Brian. And now if I reset this, I reset the game or I load a ROM, it will go straight back into welcome back Brian. Now if we close it down, reopen it, there you go, we've saved it across it. Now if you were to flash that to a real cartridge with a battery backup, or something like the Ben El Cheapo card that I've showed you a video about before, it will maintain that across in all of your games. So hopefully now you understand how we can do that in the game, how you can save something out like this, how you can rewrite it back on the screen and load it whenever you like. Obviously you would then potentially have your way of resetting it in the game, where you'd have multiple saves, and you can kind of explore this and try it out yourself. But hopefully that's the basics to get you going. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's really critical to us spreading this channel to have lots of people subscribing, and hit the like as well. And that's all for now, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.